September 15th, 1967. Rome. Cinecittà Studios. The War and Peace set. Audrey Hepburn stands in the middle of a ballroom scene, wearing an elaborate 1800s gown. 200 extras surround her. Russian nobles, dancers, musicians. Everyone in costume, everyone waiting, everyone watching. Behind the camera stands her husband, Mel Ferrer. He's directing this adaptation of Tolstoy's masterpiece, his passion project, his chance to prove himself as a serious filmmaker. And right now, he's staring at Audrey with undisguised frustration. "Cut," Mel says sharply. Again, from the top. This is take 37 of the same scene. Natasha's first ball, a pivotal moment where Audrey's character discovers her power as a woman. She's supposed to be radiant, confident, captivating. But with each take, Audrey looks more exhausted, more defeated, more broken. The crew exchanges glances. 200 extras shift uncomfortably. Everyone knows something is wrong. This isn't normal. Audrey Hepburn doesn't need 37 takes. She's one of the most professional actresses in Hollywood. She gets scenes right in 2 or 3 attempts, maximum. But Mel keeps calling cut, keeps finding problems. "Your expression is wrong. The movement isn't right. You're not feeling the character." Each criticism delivered louder, harsher, more public. By take 45, Audrey is shaking. Not from the scene, from humiliation, from exhaustion, from the dawning realization that her husband, the man who promised to love and support her, is deliberately destroying her in front of 200 people. "Cut," Mel says again. "Audrey, you're embarrassing yourself. And me." The set goes silent. 200 people stare. Audrey's face goes white. Not embarrassment, recognition. She finally understands what's happening, why Mel is doing this, why he's sabotaging her performance, her confidence, her career. This isn't about the scene. This isn't about Tolstoy. This isn't about art. This is about power. About a failing man trying to destroy a successful woman. About a husband who resents his wife's talent so much that he'll humiliate her publicly to make himself feel superior. "I need a break," Audrey whispers. "We're not done," Mel snaps. "Yes," Audrey says, her voice stronger now. "We are." She walks off set, out of the ballroom, out of the studio, and she never comes back. Not to the film, not to Mel. The marriage that started with such promise 13 years earlier ends that day. On a soundstage in Rome, in front of 200 witnesses, with the words that revealed everything. "You're embarrassing yourself, and me." This is the story of that day. The moment Audrey Hepburn realized her husband was her enemy. The sabotage that destroyed a marriage. The scene that was filmed 47 times because an insecure man couldn't bear his wife's talent. The day War and Peace became war at home. To understand what happened on that Rome soundstage, you need to understand who Mel Ferrer was in 1967. And what Audrey's success had done to him over 13 years of marriage. Mel Ferrer was born in 1917. 10 years older than Audrey. When they met in 1953, he was an established actor. Not a star, but successful. He'd been on Broadway, done serious films, had credibility in Hollywood. He was sophisticated, cultured, European in sensibility. Everything Audrey found attractive after her broken engagement to British businessman James Hansen. But by 1967, Mel's acting career was essentially over. The roles had dried up. The phone calls stopped coming. He was 50 years old, and Hollywood had moved on. Meanwhile, Audrey was at her peak. My Fair Lady, Charade, Wait Until Dark. She was one of the most bankable stars in the world. The power dynamic in their marriage had completely reversed. When they married in 1954, Mel was the established actor. Audrey was the newcomer, grateful for guidance. By 1967, Audrey was the star. Mel was the forgotten actor, bitter about his irrelevance. But Mel had found a way to stay important, to maintain control. He'd positioned himself as Audrey's manager, her advisor, her protector. He decided which scripts she read, which directors she met, which projects she accepted. Audrey, trained by years of psychological manipulation, went along with it, trusted his judgment, believed he had her best interests at heart. He didn't. Mel Ferrer had one interest: maintaining his position as the dominant partner in their marriage. And if that meant sabotaging Audrey's career to keep her dependent on him, he was willing to do it. War and Peace was supposed to be Mel's comeback, his chance to direct a prestige project. He'd been trying to get the film made for years. When Italian producers finally agreed to finance it, there was one condition: Audrey had to star. They wanted her name, her box office appeal, her international recognition. These forgotten stories deserve to be told. If you think so too, subscribe and like this video. Thank you for keeping these memories alive. Mel agreed immediately. Of course he did. He needed Audrey to get the film financed, but he resented the condition. Resented that his directing debut depended on his wife's fame. Resented that even in his moment of triumph, he was still defined by her success. So when filming began in September 1967, Mel was already in a dangerous psychological state. This film was his chance to prove he was more than Mr. Audrey Hepburn. But he was only getting that chance because he was Mr. Audrey Hepburn. The contradiction was eating him alive, and Audrey could feel it. From the first day of filming, something was wrong between them. Mel was cold, distant, critical, not the supportive husband and director she'd expected. She told herself it was stress. The pressure of directing his first film. The weight of adapting Tolstoy. But deep down, she knew it was more than that. The first weeks of filming were tense, but manageable. Mel was demanding, but not abusive. He pushed Audrey, but she assumed it was for the good of the film. She wanted to support his directorial debut, wanted him to succeed, wanted their marriage to survive this transition. But as filming progressed, Mel's behavior became more erratic, more cruel. He'd make her do multiple takes for no reason, criticize her performance in front of the crew, undermine her confidence with subtle jabs disguised as direction. "That's not how Natasha would move," he'd say. "She's supposed to be graceful. Try again. Your accent is slipping. We can't have Princess Natasha sounding like a British governess. Less theatrical, more natural. Can you manage that?" Each comment designed to chip away at Audrey's confidence, to make her question herself, to establish his authority as director over her reputation as a professional. The crew noticed. The other actors noticed. Even the Italian producers noticed. But nobody said anything. You don't interfere in a marriage. You don't tell a director how to work with his wife, even when that work looks like psychological warfare. September 15th, 1967. The ballroom scene. Natasha's introduction to Russian high society, a crucial moment in the film and the character's arc. Natasha must be luminous, confident, the most beautiful woman in the room, everything Audrey Hepburn was born to play. But Mel had decided this scene would be different. This scene would be his demonstration of power. His proof that even Audrey Hepburn could be humbled, made to look incompetent, reduced to just another actress who couldn't deliver when it mattered. The setup was elaborate. 200 extras, period costumes, orchestra, chandelier lighting, everything perfect for what should have been a magical sequence. The kind of scene Audrey could do in her sleep. "Action," Mel called. Audrey entered the ballroom, moved through the crowd, hit every mark, delivered every line, perfect performance. Exactly what the scene required. "Cut," Mel said immediately. "We need to do it again. Something was off." The crew looked confused. The script supervisor checked her notes. The cinematographer reviewed the footage. Everything looked fine. But Mel was the director. If he wanted another take, they'd do another take. Take 2. Audrey repeated the scene. Same movements, same delivery, same perfect performance. "Cut." Again, the energy isn't right. Take 3, take 4, take 5. Each time, Audrey delivered a professional performance. Each time, Mel found a problem. Too stiff, too theatrical, not believable. By take 10, the crew was murmuring. This wasn't normal. Even perfectionist directors didn't do this. There was nothing wrong with Audrey's performance. So why did Mel keep calling cut? By take 20, Audrey was getting tired. The elaborate costume was heavy. The emotional demands of the scene were exhausting when repeated endlessly. But she trusted Mel. Trusted that he saw something she didn't. That he was pushing her toward a better performance. She was wrong. Mel wasn't pushing her toward anything. He was breaking her down, systematically, deliberately, in front of 200 people. Take 25. Audrey's confidence began to crack. She was second-guessing herself, wondering what she was doing wrong. Why couldn't she give Mel what he wanted? "What am I missing?" she asked him between takes. "Tell me what you need me to do differently." "Just better," Mel said vaguely. "More truthful, more connected. You'll know it when you find it." But there was nothing to find. Audrey had been giving perfect performances. Mel just wouldn't accept them, couldn't accept them, because accepting her performance meant admitting she was talented. And admitting she was talented meant admitting he needed her more than she needed him. Take 30. The extras were getting restless. Standing in period costume for hours, watching the same scene repeated endlessly. Some began sitting down between takes, others whispered among themselves. The energy on set was turning toxic. Take 35. Audrey was visibly shaking now, not from the scene, from exhaustion, from humiliation, from the growing realization that something was very wrong. The crew was no longer confused. They were angry, watching one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses being tortured by her own husband. It was sick. It was wrong. But they were powerless to stop it. Take 40. Audrey stumbled slightly during the scene. Not a major mistake. The kind of minor imperfection that happened in every film. Usually, directors would either accept it or do one more take. Mel exploded. "Cut! Jesus Christ, Audrey, are you even trying? This is supposed to be a professional production." The set went dead silent. 200 people stared in shock. Because this wasn't direction. This wasn't artistic collaboration. This was a husband publicly humiliating his wife. Audrey's face went white. She looked around at the crowd, at the crew, at the extras who'd been watching this slow-motion destruction for hours. Everyone staring at her, everyone witnessing her humiliation. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Let me try again." "Yes, try again," Mel said sarcastically. "Try to give me something I can actually use." Take 41. Audrey was barely holding it together. Her performance was still technically proficient, but the life was gone out of it. She was going through the motions, terrified of making another mistake, terrified of giving Mel another excuse to humiliate her. Take 42, take 43, take 44. Each one worse than the last. Not because Audrey was failing, but because Mel's psychological torture was working. He was destroying her confidence, her spirit, her ability to perform. Take 45. Audrey finished the scene and looked hopefully at Mel, waiting for approval, for acceptance, for some sign that she'd finally given him what he wanted. "Cut," Mel said coldly. "We're going again." "What was wrong with that one?" Audrey asked, her voice barely audible. Mel looked at her with contempt. In front of 200 people. In front of the crew who'd worked with her for months. In front of everyone who respected and admired her. "What was wrong?" Mel repeated loudly. "Everything was wrong. You're embarrassing yourself. And me." The words hit like a physical blow. Audrey's eyes filled with tears, not just from the public humiliation, but from understanding. Finally understanding what was happening, what had been happening for months, maybe years. This wasn't about the scene. This wasn't about war and peace. This wasn't about art or perfectionism or creative vision. This was about a failed man trying to destroy a successful woman. Her husband using his position as director to humiliate her, to break her down, to make her feel as worthless as he felt. "I need a break," Audrey said quietly. "We're not done," Mel snapped. "We're going again." "No," Audrey said, her voice stronger now. "We're done." She walked off set. Through the crowd of extras, past the crew, out of the ballroom, out of the studio. 200 people watched her go. And they all understood what they'd witnessed. Not a director working with an actress, a husband destroying his wife. Audrey went directly to her dressing room, locked the door, sat down at her mirror and looked at herself. Saw the exhaustion, the humiliation, the defeat in her own eyes, and made a decision that would change everything. She called her lawyer, right then, from her dressing room phone, while Mel was still on set, probably explaining to the crew why they'd have to reschedule the scene. "I want to file for divorce," Audrey told her attorney. "Today, now. I want Mel served with papers before he leaves the studio." "Audrey, are you sure? Maybe you should think about—" "I've been thinking about it for 13 years, Audrey interrupted. "I'm done thinking. I'm done being humiliated. I'm done pretending this marriage works. File the papers." The lawyer did as requested. Within 2 hours, while Mel was still at Cinecittà Studios, still probably wondering why Audrey hadn't returned to finish the scene, a process server arrived, handed him divorce papers, in front of the same crew that had watched him humiliate his wife. The irony was perfect. Mel had tried to embarrass Audrey publicly. Instead, he'd been served divorce papers publicly. The humiliation he'd inflicted on her bounced back on him immediately. War and peace was shut down that day. The Italian producers, horrified by what they'd witnessed, fired Mel as director. Without Audrey, there was no film. Without the film, there was no directing career for Mel. His comeback had lasted exactly as long as his marriage, until the moment he revealed who he really was. If you want more untold stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Your support means everything to us. The crew was relieved. They'd watched psychological torture disguised as filmmaking. They'd seen a legendary actress being destroyed by someone who was supposed to protect her. When word spread that Audrey had filed for divorce, the reaction was unanimous. Good for her. The 200 extras who witnessed the 47 takes became Hollywood legend. They'd seen the exact moment a marriage died. The precise instant when a woman stopped tolerating abuse and chose herself instead. They'd watched Audrey Hepburn's liberation in real time. Mel was devastated. Not because he'd lost Audrey, though he had, but because his plan had backfired completely. He'd wanted to establish dominance, to prove his artistic authority, to show everyone that even Audrey Hepburn could be controlled by him. Instead, he'd exposed himself, revealed his cruelty, destroyed his own career, and lost the only thing that had kept him relevant in Hollywood: his marriage to a superstar. The divorce was finalized in 1968. 14 years of marriage ended. Audrey got custody of their son, Sean. Mel got visitation rights and alimony. But he never got another directing job, never recovered his acting career, never found another woman willing to tolerate his psychological abuse. He died in 2008, age 90, largely forgotten. Occasionally mentioned in Audrey Hepburn biographies as the controlling husband she finally escaped. His obituaries were brief, professional but cold. The man who'd once been married to Audrey Hepburn reduced to a footnote in her story. Audrey never spoke publicly about what happened on the War and Peace set. She was too classy, too dignified, too protective of her son's relationship with his father. But privately, she told friends it was the worst day of her professional life, and the best day of her personal life, because it freed her. "Mel showed me who he really was," she said years later to a close friend. "And I finally had the courage to believe him." The 47 takes became film industry legend. Directors use it as an example of how not to work with actors. Acting coaches tell the story to illustrate the difference between challenging actors and abusing them. Film students study it as proof that personal relationships can destroy professional projects. But the real lesson is simpler. Abuse thrives in private. When Mel humiliated Audrey publicly in front of 200 witnesses, the cruelty became undeniable. Not just to the witnesses, but to Audrey herself. Sometimes you need an audience to recognize your own mistreatment. War and Peace was eventually completed with a different director and a different actress. It was terrible. Nobody remembers it. But everyone remembers what happened on September 15th, 1967. The day a marriage died on a soundstage. The day Audrey Hepburn chose herself over abuse. The day 47 takes freed one of Hollywood's greatest stars. You're embarrassing yourself. And me. Those words revealed everything. Mel's contempt, his insecurity, his willingness to destroy the person he claimed to love. They were supposed to break Audrey down. Instead, they set her free. Because sometimes the cruelest words are also the most honest. Mel was embarrassed by Audrey's talent, threatened by her success, diminished by her accomplishments. So he tried to diminish her. And when that didn't work, when she remained talented and successful despite his sabotage, he tried to humiliate her publicly. but humiliation works both ways. The man who embarrassed his wife in front of 200 people ended up embarrassed himself. Served with divorce papers in front of the same witnesses. His cruelty exposed, his career destroyed, his reputation ruined. The ballroom scene was never completed, at least not the way Mel envisioned it. But something else was completed that day. Audrey's liberation. Her recognition that she deserved better. Her decision to choose dignity over marriage. Her escape from 14 years of psychological abuse. September 15th, 1967, the day war and peace became peace at home. The day 47 takes taught Audrey Hepburn the only lesson that mattered. She was worth more than any man's approval, even her husband's, especially her husband's. This is Audrey Hepburn, The Hidden Truth. From wartime horrors to Hollywood secrets, we uncover what they've been hiding for decades. Subscribe to discover the dark truth behind the elegant image.